but they will not collect a ransom in exchange for not crashing the American economy. The financial well-being of the American people is not leverage to be used. The full faith and credit of the United States of America is not a bargaining chip.
That was the president at obviously his press conference today with some pretty tough talk aimed at some of those in the House, Republicans, who are starting to entertain the idea of playing chicken, or even worse here, with both the debt limit or a possible government shutdown, or both. Now, as both parties try to set the stage for yet another showdown, all of which will likely play out between now, mid-February, maybe even end of March here. So you got several outlets reporting on the more hardline positions being drawn out by the Republican House members this past weekend. Politico, though, gave this insight that to the vast majority of House Republicans, it is a far riskier long-term to pile up new debt than it is to test the market and economic reaction of default or closing down the government. And it's not just a small group here of Tea Partiers, for anybody who thinks, oh, there's 3 or 4 crazies. No, no, no. These are folks that are willing, in large numbers here, to go, I think, pretty soon on the record with this. You got GOP officials, they went on to say in the piece, said more than half of their members are prepared to allow default unless Obama agrees to dramatic cuts that he has repeatedly said he opposes. And what's more, Politico quotes a House GOP advisor that Speaker John Boehner, who they say doesn't want to shut down or default, probably will not have the power to stop the revolt in his own caucus. Said this advisor, the GOP may need a shutdown just to get it out of their system. We might need to do that for member management purposes so they have an end game and can show their constituents they are fighting. Imagine that. It's not clear how much of this is just posturing to try and improve the bargaining position of the GOP over the next few weeks, but if it is posturing, the president, he wasn't biting today, took a very hardline approach with the Republican Party and used their own words against them. Take a listen.
Is irresponsible. It's absurd. As the Speaker said 2 years ago, it would be, and I'm quoting Speaker Boehner now, a financial disaster not only for us, but for the worldwide economy. So we got to pay our bills.
Okay, we got to pay our bills. Now, again, I think everybody at home gets this. I'll say this one time. This is not a debate that we're having right now over prospective spending. We have spent the money. Congress approved it. We've spent the money. So the question is whether or not, with the full faith and credit of the United States, we will pay our bills or agree to pay our bills and go forward. So that is what's at stake. Listen, hopefully we all agree at the table that deficits are a bad thing, and debt especially is a bad thing. It has long-term consequences, how much we're paying in interest payments. We all agree to that. But do we have a consensus that playing chicken with the debt limit and, for that matter here, threaten to shut down the government very casually, that's not in America's best interest right now with a fragile economy? Anybody disagree with that one? Okay. So, yes, Mark.
So it's very important to say, absolutely disagree with using the debt limit as it's a tactical failure. But let's remind ourselves the strategic failure here of not addressing the spending, the out-of-control spending. A year ago, during the campaign, you heard the president say, oh, we're going to reduce spending 3-to-1, taxes to spending. What happened to that?
Which spending is out of control?
Who in the media is holding the president accountable? What he said a year ago.
Control?
We have spending across the board.
No. Which spending is out of control? Which programs are out of
Certainly all entitlements are.
What do you mean by entitlements? Medicare? Medicaid?
Absolutely. Medicare,
Healthcare spending is out of control.
Obamacare, Social Security. The trajectory goes like this, and if you do nothing about that spending, you will have the things that are mentioned in that
But it's out of control
clip.
now, you're saying. It's not out of control 5 years from now.
So the unfunded liabilities that face our country right now are well over $100 trillion. That number is incomprehensible for most Americans. So to say that we can just go ahead and merrily along the way we're doing right now is ludicrous.
No one's saying that.
I feel sorry for the Republicans because they don't have any leverage. The bully pulpit is with the president. So someone hold them accountable.
Okay. I haven't reached sorry for the Republicans yet, but I do think that we've got to be real careful here. The president has said today spending cuts are on the table. He's also said more revenues on the table. If the Republican Party is going to remain captive to its either 4 or 120 nut jobs, on the question of working out.
You're not allowed to call. You're not allowed to just name call on this. I'm sorry. That's
Okay,
just not.
I withdraw nut jobs.
Let's
Let's
use
call them
evidence and logic.
bananas. If the 120 bananas in the Republican
A lot of
caucus
us believe that the fiscal cliff nonsense, again, also nonsense, utter nonsense, where we increase taxes, and it will be on everybody, with spending increases. What was that about? And we take the brink of the fiscal cliff. We're solving nothing. This will be a big problem down the line. And mark my words.
But it's the same thing as threatening to take the country beyond the debt limit or shutting down the government. It's setting up a disastrous
But one second,
consequence
though, we
to
all
force
agree.
action.
Just for
agree on
time
that.
purposes, we all agree.
We agree.
Forget about the tactics politically. I agree with you on that. We only have to look what happened the last time we did this. Our credit rating as a country went down. We actually added to the deficit. Forget about people who buy our bonds questioning about our sanity here and whether we're a good bet. It would be horrific. So we all agree to that. But Andrew, while I think it's beyond reckless to even hazard this and make this threat, the president himself has voted against raising the debt limit. And he was asked that question a couple of times today. He didn't do the answer. We don't have time for the soundbite. It's okay. But why is it okay, and why does he get a pass for when he didn't like the spending to say, in effect, I wasn't really serious that time, but they're serious now?
The primary reason is that there have always been votes of little consequence against raising the debt limit, which has happened throughout our history. If you go back, it's 28 times since Reagan was in office, just from Republican presidents who would raise the debt limit. But there was never any chance that the no's were going to overtake the yays, and that we were actually going to, run afoul of paying back our
He
obligations.
was wrong. Say it. Come on. It won't hurt. He was wrong.
It was, but how many of...
You can't say it.
It was bad tactics then, it's bad tactics
You've been in a
now.
legislature before. You know there are plenty of people who cast particular votes in particular directions, knowing that that vote isn't going to sway the outcome.
And it's political.
And you may have done that yourself.
And it's now come back to bite them in the tuchus.
It is political, but when you have enough people who are going to do one of those votes that it could actually determine the outcome, it's different.
Dom, there's one question here.
He said today he'd make more. Let's have an accurate portrayal of the positions
There are
of
not
the
$1
party.
trillion a cut. There's a reduction in the growth of spending and stuff that was already in the works, like the reduction coming out of Iraq. That's not a cut.
Well, okay, no. In that case, no one's proposing cuts.
You know why this argument doesn't work? If the president came forth and said, I'm going to cut X amount from the Defense Department, they would yell bloody murder at that. What they really
No, they're
want...
not. They're letting. I would let the sequester go and let defense
That's
cuts
why you're
go.
here and they're there.
Absolutely.
Yes, because you make sense.
No, it wasn't for lack of trying.
All right. When we come back, though, this one, for the life of me, I don't get. We can have debates on stuff, even though I think the going over the cliff is insane. Who would have ever thought, more than 2.5 months later, this region is still going hat in hand looking for funding post-Sandy? Okay, I see a few hands going up. It is getting cold, people. It's been cold already, and people's homes still not fixed. It's not some political debate. People are hurting because Washington is squabbling over whether or not they will pay for reconstruction. Yes, there's promises, but we'll dig into, as they say, the devil's in the details here. We'll tell you what they're doing, and why they're not, right after this.